Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In this episode of the ongoing coverage of the civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, we are now receiving reports from the United States State Department that, in fact, they are telling people, citizens of the United States residing inside of Ethiopia, specifically Addis Ababa, to leave the country immediately. So again, the U.S. State Department is now informing its citizens inside of Addis Ababa to leave the country immediately. And prior to the statement within the last 24 hours by the U.S. State Department, we had received other statements that were encouraging individuals to leave the former state of Ethiopia, as well from other nations as well, encouraging its citizens to leave, and some nation states were telling folks to leave immediately. So why are we seeing this somewhat change in the tone of the U.S. State Department in terms of telling people they basically, this is your last chance out if you desire to leave the country? But the real issue is what things look like after the fall of the Prosperity Party, after the fall of Abiy Ahmed, and the fighting that could take place within the vicinity of Addis Ababa, as the government, the Abiy loyalists start to fall apart within the confines of the capital of Addis Ababa. And the real big issue right now is some of the really poor decision-making processes that have been underway by the Prosperity Party, by some of the individuals in the Amhara regional leadership. And one of those major issues that will probably come back to haunt many people inside of the former state of Ethiopia is the fact that they authorized the arming of various armed groups or peoples who happen to have weapons, and those personnel were not always followers of the prescribed law within that nation state. And we are starting to see, and we have seen, in fact, criminal elements now being given positions of authority in terms of calling themselves uh, militias that are operating under the auspice of defending the Prosperity Party, defending the Abiy regime, but in fact they were no more than a criminal gang prior to the onset of hostilities, but now have been given a voice of authority and are now authorized to carry out their criminal activities in lieu of carrying out these criminal activities as a criminal gang. Now they're in a position of authority, and this is the information that MFAN is receiving. That again, there are criminal groups that are now calling themselves civil defense militias, or they're augmenting the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Yet these are simply criminal gangs that are now operating within the vicinity of various parts of the failed state of Ethiopia. And then obviously that is a big concern for the State Department when you have both fighting between official government-aligned forces engaged against the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and then you have other groups that have been authorized to act in an organized manner, but in reality these groups are simply armed criminal gangs that will be preying on the very city, Addis Ababa, that originally it was intended to protect. And again, that is something that happens in these sorts of conflicts. and I would imagine that that decision in terms of the mass arming of the population without any form of discretion is probably going to come back and haunt the Prosperity Party and even the Amhara region itself. It would appear that they are authorizing anybody that has a firearm in any cohesive group that is coming together to act on behalf of the governmental forces. But again, those forces are not acting on behalf of the governmental forces. They are acting on their own behalf in some occurrences. In other news, we continue to see the Tigrayan Defense Forces press down the A2 highway. We are also seeing the Tigrayan Defense Forces approaching the capital, Addis Ababa, also known as Finfane, from multiple areas as well. We can confirm that the TDF is utilizing roads not so well traveled, mainly to the west of the A2 highway and to the east of the A3 highway. And again, that would be this area. We expect quite possible routes of advance by the Tigrayan Defense Forces within the vicinity of various locales, such as Denba and other areas to the north of that location. We can confirm that the Tigrayan Defense Forces are continuing to make fairly significant and rapid advances, such as areas such as near Dagalo, and other areas near Where Ilu as well. And again, as you see these routes, these roads that again are not the main arteries of transportation inside of Ethiopia, but these routes are now being utilized by the Tigrayan Defense Forces to slowly infiltrate its way south and meet up with the Oromo Liberation Army that is operating just north of Addis Ababa and west of Addis Ababa. We estimate there are thousands of Oromo Liberation Army soldiers to the north of Addis Ababa, waiting for orders to move upon the city. We don't believe that may happen until the Tigrayan Defense Forces are able to directly support those forces, but that looks to be right now the general strategy of what could occur. We continue to see the breakdown of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces in terms of being able to operate in a cohesive manner against the Tigrayan Defense Forces, against the Oromo Liberation Army. We continue to see more and more paramilitary style groups emerge. In fact, we're now hearing that inside the city of Addis Ababa itself, they are raising a rather large militia of about 30,000 volunteers inside of the city itself. Again, these are all based off of citizens, and in some cases, again, we're seeing the first individuals to volunteer for some of these groups are actual criminal gangs. So again, if you are in that city and you are seeing this occur, again, just because a certain group of individuals claims to be a paramilitary organization supporting the government, that does not mean that is what they are. So again, I would say, especially for citizens of other countries that are looking to vacate Addis Ababa, again, be very, very leery of some of these paramilitary groups that are now being raised inside of Addis Ababa, as they may not be in any way there to help support the current government in Addis Ababa, the city of Addis Ababa, but may be there, in fact, to set up checkpoints and form extortion gangs to take wealth and treasure from people. But again, we know we've seen that in the past, and that could be something now the State Department of the United States is very, very much concerned about, as we're seeing the mass arming of a lot of individuals, and it doesn't look like many of these are actually for the purposes of what they're stating they are for. But again, we continue to see the movement of forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces towards Addis Ababa, towards other large cities, in a southwest movement from obviously Dessie, Kambalcha, and along the B-21 highway west as well. Now, we continue to see fighting in the vicinity of Mille and to the west of Mille, as the TDF continues to advance towards that vital road junction, looking to sever that strategic artery that is right now very important for the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, for the Afar region, for even the Amhara region itself as well. But again, we will continue to report and monitor the situation. Again, the big news today right now is the U.S. State Department really mandating any U.S. citizens inside of Addis Ababa to really get out of the country now. This is probably your last chance before things become incredibly draconian in that former nation state. Have a great day, everybody.